and all eyes are going to be on them and how they close out some recruitments and some official visits this weekend. We'll discuss ChampU BBQ coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. So ChampU BBQ, another big recruiting weekend coming up for the Oklahoma Sooners. They're going to have some big time prospects in town in Norman. And I think it all starts with the IMG Academy prospect, Jake Krell, right, Jay?
Yeah, you got Jake Kreul. Looks like Jordan Clay is on the list. So based upon the social media follows, I have them actually listed in my Discord, in my Unfair Sports Discord, as well as the one we have for Locked On Sooners. Feel free to check out the link in the description below to come join and hang out and just talk a little ball with us. People was actually talking about the Jaden O'Neal decommitment last night all through the court. So it's there if you want to come hang out and talk with us. But from all the social media posts, here's the ones that I have, and I'm going to mention a couple of them that I believe could potentially not show up because they've already committed to other places. So you've got, of course, so Jaden O'Neal was supposed to be on the list. I know that he's definitely not going to be there anymore because he's no longer committed to Oklahoma. You got to toss out there Jordan Clay, Daniel Odom. I'm wondering if he's still going to pull up. You know, him and Jaden are like this. I haven't seen or heard that that's changed, but that could change. Wide receiver Zachary Turner from Duncanville, Tajh Overton, who we just talked about, Jake Krell. You've got Jacob Eberhardt from St. Louis, the athlete, 4-star athlete, about 6'2", 6'3", plays probably wide receiver, pretty good. Ryder Mix is going to be in, who's an Oklahoma commit. Devon Robinson, I saw that he got posted something about coming in. Brian Harris said he's switching his so he can peer recruit Jake Kreul. You got DeAnthony Lafayette, Ed, 3-star edge. Daniel Norman, 3-star edge out of Florida. Both of those are Florida boys. The two Chandler, Arizona boys, and Bowe and Nico Gendreau are supposed to be in town as well. And then Braeden Presley out of Bigsby, Oklahoma. One of the Presley boys that typically Oklahoma State lands. But this one, he's a big boy. He's like 6'1", almost 6'2", DB. And you know we like our big DBs. And then kicker Trace Rudd has posted that he's going to be in town. And so the ones that did post on social media will come, but they're probably not going to be there. Alzure Miles, who's already committed. Tua Katoa, who's already committed to SMU as well. He's not coming. Or Ryan Gilbert. All three of them are SMU commits. Don't expect to see any of them coming. Will Conroy, who just flipped to North Carolina, don't expect to see him in town. Craig Dandridge is on the list. He posted that he was going to be in town, or at least he has it in his official visit piece. I don't know if he's going to show up because he's got a commitment date coming up sometime next week, and I've been seeing a lot of leans for him out of Alpharetta, Georgia, staying close to home and going to UGA. I'm not sure on that. We'll see. Last one really is Valdon Sohn. I have seen him canceling and changing up his OVs. Haven't seen anything on Oklahoma being confirmed yet. So I know he missed Florida by going to Nebraska instead last week. So Florida thinks they're out. We'll see if he shows up. So it's a long list. A lot of good players, John. But Jake Kreul is probably the number one on the list to me that I want Oklahoma to go after. That and these wide receivers. I want one of these big wide receivers like a Jordan Clay.
Yeah, so Brian Harris, Locked On's recruiting expert, said that Jake Krell was maybe the most technically gifted high school junior he's ever seen.
Which is crazy to say.
And
Brian Smith has seen some players.
Yeah.
He's seen a lot. And for him to say that,
yeah, that's
terrifying, which I would really hope that we could pull that off.
Yeah. So he, even as a freshman, he was very impressed with what Jake Kreul had to offer. It seems like this is a kid that's known he's going to be playing defensive end for a long time and just went ahead and started to perfect his craft as opposed to having to play tight end or wide receiver or whatever. No, he just locked in at defensive end. But yeah, it's a lot of big time prospects. I'll be curious to see if Valdon Sohn makes the trip, because it's another interior defensive line prospect that Oklahoma's been really heavily pushing for. And we've seen them in years past. They want to add as many of those kind of guys as they can possibly add, because they understand that the trajectory is a little bit different for each one of those guys. That you're going to have a Jaden Jackson that's ready to go right away, and you're going to have a Grayson Halton sometimes that takes 2 to 3 years before he's ready to contribute and play. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them land 3 defensive linemen. Another one I thought was interesting that you mentioned was the interior offensive lineman, Devon Robinson. Like, that's a dude that, okay, maybe now Oklahoma is pushing a little bit heavier for him because Will Conroy flipped to North Carolina. Is there another one in there? Do you feel like Oklahoma, I mean, obviously all these guys are going to be a priority because it's official visits, but I'm looking at Robeson, I'm looking at Bo Jandro. Like, those are 2 that I need to see Oklahoma lock up and land, because one, we need a Bo Jandro because we need linebacker help. You're going to be thin at linebacker after the 2025 season when potentially Kip Lewis goes off to the NFL. If Kobe McKenzie has a big year, he could be off to the NFL as well. And you're looking pretty thin. So you need to start adding that depth.
Yeah, I would like to get Presley. I would like to get Braeden Presley. He's one big name for me. Like I said, both of his brothers play ball here in the state. Brennan played ball over at Oklahoma State. Braylon, his other brother, is now at Tulsa, who played a little bit of time at Oklahoma State. And so if he comes into town and shows up, man, he's the one player I would love Oklahoma to snatch away from State. He, like I said, he's the bigger brother, 6'1", 180, nice size kid, and he's a part of the OK Prep agenda, which I am very much a big advocate for. I like getting 8-state guys and continue to building the pipeline here. If there's one place we need to own things, it's going to need to be in this state. And so there's a chance for it. You just got to make sure you get him on campus to make it happen.
Yeah, and you got to open the door at Bixby a little bit. It's not been a place that you've had a ton of success. I think the one that I look back to is the Luke Haas recruitment.
Ugh,
you lose him to
sneaky.
Arkansas. Now he's at Ole Miss. And what have you needed? You needed tight end play over the last few years. And how nice would it have been to land a kid like Luke Haas? But again, let's go break the ice with Bixby a little bit and see if we can get a Presley brother. I mean, you had one at Oklahoma State, you got one at Tulsa. It's Oklahoma's turn to get a Presley.
Yeah, it's our turn. We deserve it, I guess you could say. I'm just spitballing here, but I would totally love. He's probably the one outside of Jake Krell that I'm like I'm really pushing the hardest for. Tajh Overton, of course, is another great one because he's an OK Prep. But now the question for I have with Oklahoma is, who on the offensive line are you about to really sink into? I know that Deacon Schmidt's about to commit sometime next week. Kind of leaning Oklahoma still there. I've seen a couple of predictions go in for him to potentially pick Oklahoma. So we'll just see what that looks like. But man, I'm glad we're getting to the end of OV season. I actually saw somewhere, John, this is going to be an interesting conversation to have in the future, but I guess you said the quote unquote oversight committee for the NCAA, one of the conversations has been to move signing day to July. Like right around July 1st, mainly because what the coach's statement was, I saw in the article I read on Yahoo Sports, was June is the big OV visit month anyway. If the kids are going to go ahead and commit, have them just go ahead and be done and commit at that point, sign there in July, then everybody can just focus on the games. They can bring kids in to do their visits and be done. It may speed up the timeline for some of these kids for the senior year, but truth be told, there's no reason to really drag it out, especially because a lot of the schools are going to want to get their budgets done for revenue share as the next fiscal year starts July 1st. They can have those plans in place right there when those commitments come through. So, or those signings come through. So, I kind of like the idea the last week of June for it to be signings, like right after the final OV weekend. Make it like that Wednesday, and then lead it right into July 1st and the refresh of the revenue share for that season. Not a bad idea.
No, I think there's a good idea there, but I also think you're going to run into some unintended consequences of players balling out their senior year and then being asked to be released from their NLI. like, and having to go through some of that drama. So I'll be curious. Do they have 2 signing periods? Do they get rid of the one in February altogether?
Yep.
And do they have the July one and a winter one?
Nope. Only July is what they want. That way they can just completely have their budgets prepared. Because the thing to remember is, too, that a lot of those kids are going to want to enroll early in January. So if you can do that, get that done, get your budgets already prepared to where you know that when January hits, you'll have a small allocation for new players, if that's something of concern. But overall, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's actually really good. Get rid of the December and the February one. Do everything in the offseason, and then let football be football season only, except for the transfer portal, which they're all pushing for only one portal, which would be in April.
Man, I feel for those kids that are the late bloomers. You know what I mean? Like, you don't show out to your senior year, you're kind of screwed on that front.
Unless you're a grad. You can be a grad transfer and then have that. Because truth be told, you really
no, I mean, like, not the transfer portal. I'm talking about the high school senior.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, you break out your senior year, and, I mean, maybe you're already a little bit behind the recruiting 8 ball, but we've seen a number of players start to show out that senior year, and that really moves the needle in their recruitments so much. They start landing Power 4 offers.
It's true. Maybe they have one in December as well. Yeah. I mean, that could always be a
February,
possibility.
Like, keep the February one for those late signees, those guys that hadn't quite moved the needle enough to get the offers they're looking for. But
I think the February one, to me, is I think the February one is, if there's anyone you can get rid of, is that, because high school football season is done in November. Yeah. To me, have your signatures done then. That way, if they're going to early enroll, they can early enroll in January. Yep. And then you can focus on the transfer portal throughout January going into, February. Because the games are still being played in January. So for those teams that still are continuing to play, it's going to be painful. But yeah, I like the idea of getting rid of the February one, probably keep the December, but I'm expecting for them to move everything to July, because I think that's probably the safest time anyway. Like I said, get your budgets together. It makes the most sense. But like you said, kids that don't break out into the senior year, sorry, boss. Sorry for ya.
But also transfer portal. That'll be an option for you down the road. Won't somebody think of the children? As the line from The Simpsons goes. But
exactly.
Anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. Follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. You can follow the show at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner. Now we need to have this weekend to be big. It's going to be critical.
We want Bowe.
Bentley.